Admittedly, a very odd way to start an episode to be in a sea of 2020 Kia Souls, but we do need to discuss engines. There are two on offer. The first up is a 2-liter 4-cylinder. It is good for 147 horsepower that comes in at 6,200 RPM and 132 pounds of torque that comes in at 4,500 RPM. That is a big ouch. Then we move up to the more powerful engine, which is actually down in size. It goes to a 1.6 4-cylinder. But a couple of things changed. Number one, it's got a turbocharger, and number two, that one is fuel injected. This is direct injection. That changes the output. So this goes to 201 horsepower, and that comes in at 6,000 RPM, but the torque, 195, that comes in at 1,500 RPM, stays flat all the way up to 4,500 RPM. Oh, and one more thing, 12.5 to 1 compression ratio, 10 to 1 compression ratio. I just switched off the traction control. We got an uphill. Great way to understand what we're dealing with 1.6 turbo in the 2020 Soul. Shall we? That's some delay. Okay, that's fun. A little bit of torque steer. More to the point, a lot of torque steer. We have not experienced that kind of torque steer in a very, very long time. There's delay. It gets up and goes once the turbo spools up, but nothing happens until that turbo spools up. You and I are going to bypass the usual McPherson strut and torsion beam discussion and focus on the things that stand out. Now, yes, this is a steel company masquerading as a car company, so a lot of the construction is from high-strength steel, which increases the strength. Here, for this derivation of Kia Soul, the beam counters tell me it is now 35% stiffer. But what really stands out is how they're attaching things. So they have borrowed a page out of the Lotus playbook in the past where they use structural adhesives, but here they're doing a lot more of it. It's now 367 feet of structural adhesives. Then underneath it, there are 3 sizes of wheels on offer. There's 16s, 17s, and in that turbo we talked about, 18 inches. Found a great little hidden street here. Let's push this thing a little bit harder to disturb the plane of motion, understand what Albert Bierman did with this thing in terms of driving dynamics. The weight is surprisingly low. It's 2802 for the basic 6-speed manual, then the one most people are going to buy, 2844. This one is 3,036 pounds with the turbo and the 7-speed dual clutch. I feel there's something you and I don't spend a lot of time talking about on the show, and that is ride quality, because we're so focused on getting around tracks, we're driving cars fast, but this is about ride quality, at least this car. And here on broken pavement, it's surprisingly composed. It's light, so that's the biggest thing it has going against it, is the weight. You know how you and I have a thing for those Volvo station wagons, estate cars, pig fair cars, whatever you call them, how they have 2 flavors. They got the one that's clean design, the ones you and I like, and they got the one where they stick like the plastic on the side to make it cool for like the yummy mommies that want a baby buggy. Well, apparently the Kia folks have pilfered a page out of that strategy design book. This is like a V90. See, it's clean design, nothing on the side. The front looks kind of cool, but then come on over here. This is like the cross country, or now to speak the all-road, where they stick on the stuff on the side, they change the grille, make it look tougher, but it's not all-wheel drive, and they call this one the GT and that one the X-Line. Are we clear? Now we have a bit of a freeway. I need to make quick work of that Corolla and that Fusion there, so let's try sport mode. This is one of 2 transmissions on offer. There is actually 3 transmissions. There is a 6-speed manual, sadly, that is only in the most basic vehicle. And then there is a CVT, but then there is this, the 7-speed dual clutch. And again, we've driven this in many other Hyundai, Kia products, and it works incredibly well here. But the difference at higher speeds it can downshift a bit quicker for passing maneuvers. I would argue this combination of the 1.6 turbo and the 7-speed dual clutch is one of the better marriages within the Hyundai-Kia empire, because these two were designed and built in-house to work in conjunction with each other. Revolutionary is not exactly the term I would use to describe the interior. Much like the exterior, it's unmistakable that it's a Kia Soul. It's just updated, like the tactile feel in the steering wheel is a bit better, there's cooler buttons over there, the door panels have changed a bit. But really the big difference is the screen. On the basic cars, 7-inch diagonal screen. On this, the GT with the turbo, more fancy model, 10.2-inch diagonal screen. And one example of how that works is with Apple CarPlay. Look at the maps. It changes the real estate usage here, where the map is much, much bigger. A bit of an improvement even over the wireless CarPlay application in the BMWs. And then it's not just Apple CarPlay, it's also in the Kia UX, where you have more of the settings across in 16:9 orientation. So as I turn around here, interesting thing about the integration for Apple CarPlay in this, and Android Auto's on offer as well. Notice it doesn't put all my apps, it doesn't fill the 10.2 screen. And check this out. For some reason, Amazon has its own screen, but there's still apps. I don't know if Amazon's paying for that, or if that's just something screwed up in my setup, but I find this very strange. That's Duffus over there. He's been behind the scenes in many episodes before. We have had to rig something to work. They have lights, pulse lights inside the car that you can only see at night. So Duffus and I are trying to make it night in San Diego at, what time is it, 4 p.m.? Yep. Yeah, 4 p.m. So hopefully we'll get the lights working. Give us a second. And they're supposed to work with the stereo. So this is the other side of our day-night experiment. It took us 25 minutes to set up this night blanket at 4:25 p.m. I can't clear the music, that's why I've got to turn it off. But the choices are Blue Flight, Dreamy Purple, Orange Delight, Goldman Insight, Super Red, Refreshing Sea, and Violet Cloud. So such as colors, it's very fancy names of themes, as LL Cool J Lounging.
Step into the darkness, stare in the direction of where the sun sets. Am I looking for something or someone, or am I just looking to...
Finally off the main roads and found where the sky has just opened out here to the point where I'm gonna have to fjord a bit of a river here in a Kia. Good point to talk about the dimensions. It's bigger than you think. The wheelbase 102.4 and the length 165.2. So even though the size, you think it's this cute little thing, it's actually bigger than a lot of cars out there. Like the wheelbase is actually longer than a 911, believe it or not. So a bit more behind the scenes on how these programs work. These cars have all been tested here in San Diego, programs done. Now they get sent to different parts of the country for more testing. Like for example, this goes to Miami, this goes to Dallas, and that one goes to Atlanta. But before they go, you and I need to discuss one of the reasons for being of a Kia Soul, because it's cool looking, but it's still about efficiency. So the fuel economy of this one, the 2-liter, with the manual transmission will be 25, 31, 27. Not bad. But this one, this is the turbo, has more horsepower. You would think the fuel economy goes down. It's actually the opposite. Fuel economy goes up, 27, 32, 29. Would that sway you to buy the more powerful car because it gets better fuel economy? A bit behind the scenes here as this guy opens in San Diego, California. If you've seen the show over the past 6 weeks, pretty much every episode has rain in it. It's not only been rainy for the past 6 weeks, it's been downright freezing cold in the California Republic. And before you laugh at me, got up this morning and it was like 30 degrees in parts of San Diego. So I'm getting in the car and I'm like, oh, this one's fitted with heated seats. And then I look over here, I'm like, oh, this one's fitted with a heated steering wheel. And then I start driving it and notice it's got a head-up display. And I'm thinking to myself, you remember in 2011, the Elantra was like groundbreaking because it had heated seats in the back. And I still think in my brain that that's weird for cars in this segment. Is that now the new norm, that these cars now have fancy bits in them? Or am I still like in the prehistoric Stone Age thinking these things should have a bench seat with vinyl upholstery. A lot of time talking with these guys about the Kia Soul. I still like driving this thing. Granted, the turbo engine solved a lot of problems when we drove it about a year and a half ago. Really enjoyed it. But now, you know, Kia likes to talk about they have no competition, that the Cube is gone and the XB is gone, all that kind of stuff. But I would argue there's actually more competition, some of it coming from their own cousin, Hyundai. And it's just as fun to drive, and that's the Kona. So, they shared some money numbers with me. The base car is about 17, 18 grand. The one we drove is about 27 grand. And I really spent some time thinking about that. 27 grand, you can get a fully loaded Kona? Yeah! I know, you seem to like that one better. So, while they're both fun to drive, I'm gonna leave you with this. Is it about design? Meaning, you gotta have a Cube? Or just something that stands out, because now the Kona stands out just as well, just in a different way. Let me know in the comments below or via our social media. MotoManTV, all one word, MotoManTV, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And these guys and I are going to spend some time hanging out in the Canadian snow because it is coming down, cats, and you know what. Till I see you next time, bis später. I know, you're a sweetheart. You're a sweetheart. I know, you're a sweetheart. You're a sweetheart. I know. You're a super sweetheart.